Hello and welcome to this Crystallize live stream. My name is Bård, and today I have with me Sebastián, CTO here at Crystallize.
Hello, everyone.
And this one is a good one. So we're going to do a little bit of an overview and deep dive of the new Discovery API. It's not new, but it's now being introduced for everyone in these days. And basically, we have been working on this for almost 2 years.
Yeah.
Since we decided to launch this. Sebastián is the main guy behind it, so it's good to have him here today. And basically, the reason why we decided to create a new API called Discovery is to have one API that is unified towards building your storefront, fetching data, fetching your catalog in a flexible, fast, and simple way. So it's very different from the other APIs because it's a semantic API. And maybe we start there with explaining what does a semantic API mean, Sebastián?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're going to show a little bit of shapes because obviously to understand this, you need to understand how the model is. But basically, the semantic way means that the schema, the GraphQL schema, will follow your tenant shapes, your tenant content model. It means that if you have product, well, you're going to be able to query product. If you have stories, if you have categories, if you have folder, whatever you decide to name your shapes or to name the component of your shapes, that's going to be reflected into the GraphQL schema of the Discovery API for your tenant. That's what it means.
Basically, descriptive API that follows this structure you've defined with your shapes and components. Yeah,
exactly. And this is, and you mentioned it, right, to improve also developer experience. Because if you've been using Crystallize, usually what you do when you fetch the data using the catalog API is you remap the data that you fetch in order to pass this data to your front end. And in your front end, you want that to be semantic already, right? You have a template, maybe a title, description, and something. Here, the Discovery API will do more than that, obviously, but it will do that for you.
Yeah. And this is all abstract for me. Could you give me an example of a shape and specifically how that translates into an API signature?
Yes, definitely. I think you're lying that it talks to you a lot, but let's have a look. So this is a shape from a tenant, right? The tenant is the tenant on which we're doing demo for a while, good furniture. And this is a product. So the product shape, business as usual. You have a title, which is a single line. You have a description, with different options. With Crystallize, when you create a shape, you have different components. You can set them up, right? So you can enable localization. But here we're talking about Disco API. So you can decide here, okay, this component, I want it to be in the Disco API. I could disable that and it won't be there. Not going to do this for the demo, but you could. And you can provide description. We'll see that because the GraphQL schema is actually connected to your tenant, everything you put in here will also be reflected into the GraphQL schema. We're going to have an example. And what is beautiful in Disco API is that the Disco API will know what the component is. So when you ask for the title, you don't have to say, okay, this title is a text, is a single line, give me the text, or this is a numeric, so give me the number. The Disco API knows that. The schema will be smart enough to know that, and you're gonna have an easier way to fetch the data. So we're gonna have a demo. So we have title, description, story just part of collection, brand. That's gonna be interesting for later. Yeah. So here the product can be connected to another item in your own content model. So here, this is the brand. So we have a lot of brand, and we want to connect the product to a brand. Pretty standard, I think, right? So remember that for later.
And also, if you're not that familiar with shapes and data modeling in Crystallize, we have done a whole live stream series on that, deep dive into headless PIM, as we call that, which is data modeling and configuring all of these things in Crystallize. But yeah, but so I can define which components are available for discovery, and I can also add comments there. But how, again, would then the API look, right?
Yeah, let's go for it. So that was a shape, a little bit on the item now before to go to the query. So we have content obviously in this tenant, and we're going to fetch those data in this folder to make it simple, right? So
yeah,
here we go. Let's try to fetch this data from this API. So this API URL is, as usual for Crystallize, api.crystallize.com/your tenant identifier/discovery.
Yep. Details are also available in the documentation under Learn. So if you go there and look for discovery, you will find the information. And also a lot of the sample queries that we're using here today is also found in the documentation.
Yeah. So you can have a look at this and play with it directly in the playground here, right?
Yeah.
So let's go back here and let's have a very simple query at first, right? Browsing.
I'm interested in the schema first because jumping on the query, but how do I know?
So this is business as usual for GraphQL. And by the way, see, this is not new, but the new playground is kind of nice.
Yeah.
So this is all the query. So this query API by definition is read-only, right? There is no mutation. So you just have query in there. And you have a couple of things that you can do, right? You can browse, you can search, or you can autocomplete.
Yeah.
So we're going to review that, right, together.
Yeah, definitely.
And
but then, but if you go to browse, right, and if you want to look at the product, because I'm interested in this, you said that the API follows the shape.
Exactly. So you basically, very often in your project, you want to list some kind of shapes, right? You list the folder, then you list the product, or you list the category, and the browse is kind of this. So if I click on browse query, and here, automatically, you have all the shapes that we were just talking about, right? The brands, the category, landing page, menu item, and product. This is the product that we were looking at. So we're going to deep dive a little bit here. What is a product query? You have a bunch of filters, a bunch of parameters, including features. We're going to go back on that. But let's have a look at what is a product in this schema, in this GraphQL schema. So when you will browse something, you get a summary of the browsing, and then you get a list of results that we called hits. And then it's an array of product. And here, product, it is written product because on your tenant, you name the shape tenant, right? Product. So it's very semantic. It's connected to, if you create another tenant tomorrow, that's going to look different for you.
Yeah. So could be book, could be car, could be any type of product that you're selling. In this demo tenant furniture, we use product because we use one shape for all types of products here.
Exactly, right? And again, this is just here, product.
Yep.
Good. So here, of course, we have the default in Crystallize, product, items in general. They have many things that are all together, all the time the same. Yep. Created that, publication that, index that, item ID, language type, you name it. So you have all that stuff. But of course, you have the semantic part. So if I scroll to the end, I can see that I have everything we are supposed to have based on the shape. So the title, the description, here you can see that the description that I showed you before is actually...
And this is an important point, right? So the comment you added in the shape definition is showing up also in the documentation. So it means that you can describe how this should be used or what the effect of it is. And this goes both because it's showed for editorial users while editing, and also developers find it directly here in the documentation. And it could be like it says here, the description is kind of the short description, keep it to 3 sentences. If you don't fill it in, or if you don't fill in the SEO as it says, this is the field that will be used. So it's kind of hinting towards the implementation that the developers will do also. So that's super useful thing.
Exactly, right? It gives a hint to the developer, which is most likely what they would do, right? They would go back to the UI and see what it is sometimes.
Yeah.
Unless you guys are doing perfect project and you have specification and everything, but we know what it is. So now you have a hint and you can play with it. And then based on the component type, well, the Disco API knows a little bit that it can tell you, right? So title, we just ask for the title here and we're gonna get the title. For this description, we're going to ask for the description, and that's it. We're going to see we have some option. Story, what is the story? It's a paragraph collection. So obviously we have everything that is available in the component. You can fetch it, right? So we could compare that to the catalog API sometimes. It is kind of the catalog, but semantic.
Yeah. And which basically means if you hit the play button on the right there, you skip a lot of inline fragments. You don't have to do triple dot on to get the value. You get it out there as easy and as directly usable as possible.
Yeah.
Like the name and the value, it's just a key value, right? And also as you're doing here, where you can define a little bit. Okay, I want the HTML version of the description, or maybe plain text or JSON for the.
This is the default, right? But that would be if you use the component that we have, the Crystallize React.js component to render rich text. So that would be the JSON format that we would fetch. But for any other use case, you can just get the plain text.
Yeah.
Or the, you do you.
And one of the things that we do see here is like it's about 60% less query code that you have to write compared to using the catalog or the core API. Let's do one example on the fly here. If you want to have, let's say, I want to know the relation to the brand. So I want to know the brand of this guy, and that's on product level, right?
So I can first, how do I know that I can do that? I can use auto-completion, or I can control-click on product to get the parameter, but also what do I have as a query, right? So I can scroll. We were looking at the brand, so we know that it's brand, it's an item relation. So let's have a look. I'm going to put it there. I'm going to reduce that so the screen is bigger. You can see better. And then I do brand. And then I do, okay, I can get the item. Let's get the item name. But in Crystallize, you can also have connection to a specific SKU right away. So I could do that, right?
Yeah.
And then we have the variant with a different price. And here, the item.
Yep.
Connected. That's it.
Yeah. And that's a lot less query code than it used to be. Just that one. So that's a really good example. But okay,
and it's even better. I think I'm not completely sure that we reserve the SKU in catalog API in here.
Yeah.
So we have some trick that you can do. Definitely many trick. We're going to mention it. It might be the next topic, right? The search and filtering, right? Here, I just want to add on this because it's semantic. There is many things that you have also regarding, the product universe, which is the content, but also some part of the shop experience, kind of like the price. Here, we know by advance that in your tenant, you have default price, membership price, same as we know the stock location. So see, you have a stock in also, but you can have a stock somewhere else, right? Toronto. This is completely semantic, right? Yeah. This is why we've done that.
Yeah.
Again, to simplify.
And again, all of this is following what you have done when configuring the shapes, but also here, price variants and stock locations, right? So it makes it easier to work with. And of course, this is typically, you get this and set up the types locally so that you have a nice experience writing the code also when you're on that level. But also, what if I add a new component or remove or change something?
Yeah, that's a very good question, right? And also it's following what you just said, right? Here, you can definitely use GraphQL CodeGen or whatever tooling that you have to actually generate the types based on the GraphQL endpoint, right? But what's the magic? How does it work? If you change the schema, well, there is nothing automatic for many different reasons. But if you add a component, then you need to tell it. You need to tell the system, the Disco API, that okay, I want a full reindex, because adding a component, it's okay. But what if you add a shape? What if you remove a component? There is many things that involve the fact that you don't want to reindex automatically, right? You want to be in charge of the reindex. You decide when you do a migration, when you do a push to production, that okay, now the shape is different. Maybe you handle it in the code. Most likely you handle it in the code, and then you do your switch. So to do that in Crystallize, you just go to the tenant like usual, and then you go to the settings and Disco API, and when you click on this, you can reignite the tenant. You do that only when you change the content model, right? Every time you change an item, you change a title, you add a price, all that stuff is synchronized, obviously, right? This is just when you change the structure.
Don't do it when you do a republish or change content. Add a product, change the price. Don't reindex.
And here, for the more technical of you guys, the process is interesting, right? It's while we reindex, if you have a million product, right, which you can have in Crystallize, the reindexation is not going to take a second, right? It's going to take time. I don't know, a few seconds, maybe a minute or two, depending on the size of your tenant. And we still want to keep the front end working, right? So we have a mechanism to handle that, right? Everything is done in the background, and then when the index is done, we switch it. There is nothing to change in your code. It's gonna work directly, but just for you to know.
Cool. Fancy. Okay, so now we're looking at the browse query, and this is, I would say, the go-to when you're fetching categories, you're building menu structures, you're fetching products, because it's limited to a shape, and very often that's what you're fetching. You're fetching one type of product or document at the same time. So what if I want to go further here? Because now you're fetching every product under outdoor furniture. If I want to be more specific and I want to filter out certain results.
So keep in mind, so when you browse, it's like you add an implicit filter on the shape identifier, right? It's most likely, I mean, this is definitely this. It's exactly this in the code, actually. So browse means you have an implicit filter. What does that mean, filter? Well, again, control-click on product. Here you have all the parameters, all the arguments that you can pass to the product function here, I would say. So you have the language, publication state, path, we're using it, many different things. And you have the filter, facet, and sorting. So we're going to review that a little bit. Let's start by the very beginning. Filtering. Filtering on Disco API. It's most likely filtering on anything that you have, or everything. So every single component, and here it's limited on what you can filter on the product, because we know by advance that you are fetching product. So here it's only the features that are available on product. That's why it's also, and again, semantic to the product. We can say, okay, I want to filter on brand item name that equals something. Let's do an example, right? And of course, because it's GraphQL, you have autocompletion, right? So I can filter this, and then I have all the list. We're going to switch to a better query, but just to show you.
And,
so this is all autocomplete, right?
And this is also totally new because this is not possible in Catalog API today. So this gives you a lot of new possibilities. So you can go in and if you look, a simple one, when you switch to the query, is like filtering on like prices, or here where we have dimension weight number, which is an actual numeric component in Crystallize.
Piece. That's inside a piece. Let's pause a little bit because this one is quite magical. So price default, price should be bigger than 500, right? And the dimension should be less than 20. And if we look back at the shape in here, so we have the product shape. Sorry. Dimension is actually a piece.
Nice.
With weight. So, yeah, again, being fancy.
So it's one line to filter on a nested structure of a numeric within a piece.
Yep.
Pretty neat.
It is. Then, of course, when we're talking, and here now we are talking more about, I mean, we're not talking about search yet, but kind of, right? As soon as you add filtering, it resonates to search, right? Like then you can probably want probably pagination and stuff like that, right?
I definitely do. We'll get back to pagination and efficient data fetching, right? One thing to mention here is so experiment with the different filters here, and you see that there's an and there also. If you go back, so you can combine this in and or to build your queries.
And by default, it's and.
Yeah,
actually, but we wanted to show you, that could be or. And also something we didn't mention yet. It's you get the result, but one can ask, but why do we have this level hits here?
Why do we have that level hits?
Exactly. Why? It's an extra level that you don't want. Yes, you do. You do want, because you want to have some kind of info, maybe like total hits. We're going to come back to that in the pagination. But you have fancy stuff like price range. Min and max, so you know the price range of all your results. So it could be useful for the UI. Again, Disco API, semantic, search, filter, facet, but also developer experience, right? Most people, they want some kind of things like that. So we built it. We built it in.
Definitely. Okay, so
right, that would be this one. Little bit fancy.
Yeah.
Business.
Yeah. So because now let's look at this one, because this is we're still on browse, but let's look at search, term and fuzziness, right?
Okay.
So because browse is a search.
Browse is a search. Yeah. So search product. Here we go. So
you have on here. You also have already. Yeah, I was thinking what you just showed, but feel free to skip ahead.
But this one is still product.
Yeah, exactly. But if you want to do search within here, you can. Like if.
Definitely. Oh, sorry, I missed the point. Yeah, because there is a. Okay, let's do that first.
We're still on browse.
Within the browse, you can actually search, right? Maybe you want to list only when the name contains this string, right? So this is an example. So if I do this, I have no hits.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't work, or because I want to optimize my query. And this is where you can also set up the fuzziness, which is on this.
So in this case, because you can filter on the actual component level, or you can just remove that. And this is a good one because the term here with double fuzziness means that you can have two characters wrong, basically, in the spelling, but it searches all components.
Yep, it does.
So whereas if you would do a filter on the brand or a particular
so that was the fuzziness, right? Palisade, if I do this, I got this. If I make a mistake, no result.
Yeah.
But now if I make a mistake and I do fuzziness double, then it's still gonna work, right?
Exactly. So that's I think a good thing to know about that. The browse is a search, but it makes the search on a specific shape or items of a specific shape. And in addition, the search results that you get from hits is then directly semantic. There's no inline fragments that you have to do. So it's, I would say it's a little bit easier to work with as a developer. It's one type that you get back, and yeah, you don't have to map so much.
Exactly, yeah. And see, as you mentioned, filter is on a specific component, right? So here it's interesting to see, for instance, that if I do Palisa star, it's not going to work because not regex here. So I want this. This is working. But then here you have many things you can do. You can do regex. And then I think if you do that, it's dot something. Here we go. So you have different ways of filtering on different kind of component. So here it's a string, so you have all that stuff. But let's say I want to filter like we did before on the price. Then I got range or equal as well, because you could just equal for a number as well. But I have a range, which I don't when it's a text line, etc., etc.
So, and all of this is directly available in the documentation. And it's once you've learned the filtering of different components and types, you're good. You can quickly build.
Again, right? You have auto-completion, so it's really easy to go there and try things.
Yeah.
You just go for it. Just go for it. You look at what you have. Exist, equals, not equals, range. And okay, I have range. What can I do? Look like. I mean, that's also the point.
Exactly. That's quite powerful, I would say. So you can both filter and sort within the browse. So you can really narrow down what you're looking for.
Yes, definitely. We can also facet, right? But we can keep it for later. But you can also facet in here, right?
Yeah.
So a good example would be, okay, what if I want to know how many brands of the same? What if I want to facet on the brand?
Yeah. Let's do sorting first.
Yeah. I'm not looking at the script, so we'll prepare a little bit the live stream, right? But yeah, okay, let's do the sorting.
It's following a little bit the storyline of the documentation, so that you can follow along with the queries there. But Sebastian is on the show.
Yeah, starting. So same. This is true for many reasons. Every time you display something on the website, and it's sometimes too often forgotten by developers, right? It matters how you display things, right? So you probably have a sort order everywhere you do a query. And if you don't, you should. So whether it's by price, by name, or by whatever, right? So here, same approach. You can sort by every single component that has been enabled to be discoverable, right? So, and
again, same as you could filter on the weight, which is numeric inside a piece in this setup. You can also sort on it. So have the lightest or heaviest first.
Yep.
And then if you have multiple, of course, it's first sorting on the first one and then on the second one and so on.
See.
And this is also useful, a trick here. So the sorting that you have in the UI in Crystallize is called priority, which is a numeric value that you can give to the sort order of items. Typically, if you want to manually place things in a menu or desk things like that. But this could also mean that you have a, let's say, non-defined value for most, and then you have a set, 10 or something for the 10 most important products. And then you can sort on price, which means that you then get the 10 first products before you get the rest, so that you can lift up select products in your search results, for example. So there's a lot of interesting things you can do with sorting.
Not to mention that you also have by default, because behind the team, it's a search engine. So based on the query, based on the term, and based on the logic of the search engine, you can also decide to sort by score, which is the default when you do nothing. If you provide no sorting, that will be sorted on the score.
Yeah, and that's the relevance. The better the hit, the higher the up, and the more exact. Yeah. Cool. I guess that's browse.
Yep.
let's continue on search and first look at what's the main difference between search and browse.
So as mentioned, right, the only difference is we inject a semantic and implicit filter on browse. So the main difference is when you do browse, everything, including parameters, filters, sorting option, and facet option, are all constrained into what you can do inside product, right? If I do category in here, I think it's good to show you that. And I do a filter. The list of filters that I have here, we're going to have common, right? Because we have all the properties that are common across different shapes. But here, I won't have description. Or maybe we have description on category as well. I won't have a price, for instance, or I won't have, see, there is no price anything because it's not product. So it's constrained to the specific shape you are browsing on. If I do search, then I open up to everything. Now we are searching. We have no limitation whatsoever. We said to the system, okay, give me everything with the term green. And then you don't know what kind of shape it is, right? Because we are looking across the board. So here you can ask for, okay, what it is. Okay, this is a story. This is a product, right? And then based on what it is, you can ask for it.
Yeah.
And you can do fancy stuff. For instance, we know that name is a global property, right? So for instance, we can optimize this query because we know name will be there all the time. So we can just remove that. Actually, that was to show you. That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so then everything is valid. And here, filter, here would be a huge list because here it's all the filter of all the shapes. So the list is way, way bigger. What does that mean for you? It enables something that if in your content model, I don't know, let's say you have product, shape, and I don't know, category shape, and they are both connected to a shape. They have a shape, item relation shape named brand. Then you can filter on the brand item ID, for instance, and you will get product and category, right? So we are mixing the filter if the shape component has the same ID, which enables you to filter on two different shapes at the same time, which is quite powerful.
Yeah, and that would be similar to using a topic to define a brand, for example. You get the same power, but having a relation, which gives you a lot of other benefits. So that's an interesting thing. But usually, if you do a search, you get a lot of results, and you usually want to narrow down with facets, right? So should we take a look at some faceting?
Definitely. So there's two topics, right, in what you just said, the limits and the facet. And it's kind of connected to the filtering as well. So let's have a look at this one. This is still product.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's browse. It's not search, right? So maybe we do it. Maybe we do it live.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go back to the same one.
Or if you find a good one.
The product, but I don't think we have a ready with search. It's only
I think we have one for facet. But okay, let's do a search and start by faceting on topic.
Yeah.
Let's just build it. Let's do it live.
Yeah, I think it's better to do it live. So you don't want to do limitation first, we do facet first. Okay, so let's have a look. We search on something. And I think this, if you don't mind, the easiest one for now would be a facet on shape. You want to know how many products or how many categories is there based on your query, right? So a facet for everyone, a facet, it's just a way to give to your user a way to refine their search. So it's kind of it's a proposition of filter, and you know in advance how many results you're going to get for that next filter. So for now, We're not filtering it, by anything, but we want to know the shape, and we want to know the 5 first shape that are matching. I'm going to do that. Then I'm going to ask for the shapes, right? So the shapes are not in the its, right? Because it's nothing related to the document that we are fetching. It's in summary, and then you just have facets. And if you do that, we can see that within this search, in the result for green, we have 10 product, 7 story, and 1 landing pages.
Yep.
And then we can provide a way in the user, in the UI, to filter on that, right? So this is where you probably have a checkbox, and the user can say, okay, I want only the story. So how would you do that here? Well, you would do filter. So this filter here, it's what you can use to filter. So here I can do shape equals story. Boom. Then if I ask for the total it, I should get 7, right?
Hope so.
Working. So, but this is a facet. But this is a simple facet, right? So this field is at the top level of each document. Every document, they have a shape. So this was the happy pass. But now what if you want to do a facet on an item relation? That was your question, right?
Yeah.
Do we go back to the tenant just to have a look?
Yeah.
So with product, item relation.
And this is a very common data modeling pattern within Crystallize, to use relations to document shapes, which gives a lot of more information about the brand, the logo, all the things, right? And also, the trick with the quick select folder so that it's just popping up there. But when you have the brand, you do similar. If you do like you have labeling, you have which country of origin is it, what's the allergens, if you're talking food, and things like this. So it's really, I would say, one of the most used design patterns for creating data models in Crystallize when you're wanting to have a little bit more rich labeling.
Exactly. And then it would make sense, once again, to propose to the UI, okay, I want to filter by brand, right? That's the point, right? So how would you do that? Well, you ask for the facet on brand. And it could be pass, it could be item name. Let's just do item name for now. So limit, we want 5. So how many facets for this? I'm going to remove the filtering.
Yep.
And then I have here, I can also, if I'm not happy with this result for any kind of reason, I can decide to change the key here. I'm going to name it brand. So here we have a facet brand. So we know that this brand has 4 items and this brand has 3 items. So then I can do a filter saying, okay, give me all the content or the items for brand item name equals Planturama. That's the point. And you can decline that to everything, right? Let's say I want in Crystallize you have topics, right? So you can have a facet on topics as well. So what will be the result here? It's, okay, we know by advance that, okay, chocolate, 9 items. South America, 9 items, etc. So this is a faceting system. It's to propose to your client, to your user, a way to refine their search.
Yeah. And same you can do on things like paths, parent paths, and to figure out what category is the most not important but popular, and then you can drill down further into that category. So this is useful if you want to build drill down navigation for your storefront.
Yep.
Nice. And here you also with
so many.
No, just a nice thing here with since you added the parent paths, because then you have the full breadcrumb, so to speak, and you get also the faceting on each level.
Yes.
Kind of fancy.
Yeah, kind of, right? So Again, the faceting feature is is really powerful and enables you to do some kind of dynamic stuff. For instance, I have a good example that I always give it. Let's say you are on an e-commerce project, which is maybe what you do with Crystallize, and you want to build a menu that is highly dynamic based on the stock, for instance, or based on something. And you want that menu to be generated kind of on the fly, because you want to avoid the situation where if you click on this brand, you have no product. Right? It's happening a lot, right? Because usually how people are doing this, they are actually building a menu, brands. They look into the DB, in the tenant, they look in the tenant and they give me all the brand, they list the brand and the brand ID or whatever. They click on the brand and then they have a page that lists all the product of this brand. But what if there is no product on that brand? Because I don't know, not a good season. Then you have an empty page.
Yeah.
Using the facet system, you can do better, right? You can say, okay, give me the facet for this generic search. And then if the facet returns 0, you don't display it. So the user won't click on a category or on a brand or whatever if it's empty. So that's another example of faceting and usage of faceting.
And again, we decided to go a little bit further with the data results of faceting, which kind of breaks the standard convention of search faceting, because we wanted to achieve more and have more possibilities here, so that you both have the path and you have the label and you know what to filter on, so that we provide more information than is typical with normally if you use like an Algolia or Meli search. They have different patterns for facets, which enables less capabilities to be direct. So this works really good for the ecosystem in Crystallize. So that's searching. We have faceting, we have filtering, we have sorting. Should we just mention a little bit on, before we move on autocomplete? Because that's the last square, and then we'll go a little bit further on some more advanced topics. But because browsing, obvious, I want to fetch something of a particular shape. Then you always use browse. It's I would say the easiest to use because it's less code to write. Search across shapes. Other than that, it's the same functionality with filtering, faceting, etc.
It's a good thing to mention. All the parameters that you have are also semantic. They are context aware, right? So those are exactly the same option in browse, in search, and in autocomplete. We're going to show you autocomplete. So it's important to get that, right? We're trying to give a signature for all the search that is always the same.
Yeah. So once you have learned faceting, you know it for all 3 of the functions here. But there are reasons why we added autocomplete, because if you're doing a search here, like with the search term, it's an actual full word match. Yes, you can have fuzziness up to 2 characters, but if you want to do type ahead search for like a search box, or if you have a field with you want to do some sort of auto completion for give me a relation, and you want to quickly find a product, something like this. For it could be a form to fill in what brand, and then you fill in and do autocomplete. So how does the autocomplete work?
So exactly as you said, So indeed, you can imagine to do autocomplete with search function, but it's not going to be perfect, because even if you play with fuzziness in the term, which is inside option, if you don't remember, it's there. You can do stuff in here, but it's not made for that. Maybe it's going to work for your use case, but there is a simpler way. And the simpler way is to use the autocomplete function, right? Remember, if we go back here, we have browse, search, autocomplete. Once again, same parameters. The only difference is when you use autocomplete, behind the scene, the query that is sent to the search engine is going to to make it better in terms of performance, to search for incomplete word. That's mainly the goal, right? That's why we have a specific query, because we didn't want that to be just another option of search. It's a specific stuff that you want to do. It might be optimized in the future, but so far, autocomplete is on the name only. And behind the scene, it's made for auto-completion, right? It's really like half of the word, the first letter of the word, and then you have auto-completion on everything that you may want to display based on that.
And again, here, lots of power, lots of responsibility. Because if you want to do a typo head that is performant, you don't want to fetch the whole product, all components, and all images, right? That wouldn't make any sense at all. So make sure to optimize the query so that you only fetch exactly what you need, which is typically maybe name, path, first image in a super low resolution. That's usually a product. Maybe you want to have the price. So
and you can filter as well, right? If you don't like the result, you can also filter by whatever you want to filter. Right? So you can say, give me only the product. If you want to have auto completion on product only, for instance, this is where you would do this.
Yeah,
that's it. Good.
Exactly. So that's powerful capability, and it's designed for type ahead search. That's basically it. One of the things that I would like us to maybe dive a little bit into, it's now we looked at how to fetch data, as in find the actual item or the product. But a lot of the things that we have worked on is also how do you actually fetch the item data? So the core attributes, the components, relations, chunks, things like this.
Yeah.
So should we build a query?
Let's do that. A little things that we didn't mention yet, it's pagination. You want to do that now or before?
Let's do it after fetching the data.
Okay, good. So fetching the data is when you're done with the filtering, the searching, the matching, right? The query result. So as discussed, the query result. So let's get this query maybe. I'm getting a simple query here. Yeah, product sorted. It's a good query. So let's take a simple query, right? So we get all the product in this path and we sort it, right? Let's make it even simpler. We just start on this price. Nice. Yeah. So here we are matching product only, right? Implicit filter. And you get a list of matching document. And indeed, based on the semantic of the shape, you can ask for things. And we discussed that based on the component type, the Disco API, as we name it, the Discovery API, will simplify everything for you. That's why when you have description, you have only one line to get it right. This format is not even required. Then we went further, right? Mentioned it before, because we know by advance the price, we have the price, we have membership, we have the stock location, all that stuff is done for you. But what if it goes a little bit further, right? Let's go back to the shape to remind ourselves. We discuss brand. We're going to look at brand. This is a chunk, right?
Yep.
This is a piece. This is another chunk. So how do we fetch this? Is it different? So you're going to see that it's exactly the same as before, right? So we're going to go back there and we're going to fetch this information. So dimension, it was a piece we've seen that before. Yep. But if I want to do brand, I can ask for brand. And then I can say, okay, we kind of did that before, right?
We did items there. Yeah.
So let's have a look at the.
You can do related. With some related products there.
Item relation, that's the same. You do you can fetch everything you want.
Yeah.
So basically, the structure here, as nested as it is, you just go for it. We want the SEO. What was the name for the SEO?
I think it was Meta.
Meta. Here we go. Meta. This is the name, and then you have the piece title. So here, see, It does not matter how the content model is done. You just have to, you don't have to know if it's a piece or if it's a chunk or if it's a multi-choice component. That's the beauty, right? And you don't need to know.
And it's super simple. I mean, to get direct access to the data. And one thing that we can take a look at, which is also useful, if you go to the, let's say, the default variant and want to fetch the images.
Default variant, images. Prepare the query for that, right? But that's okay. You can list the images, right? And let's say the URL. If you do that, not good, because you get the original image, right? So you don't do that in the catalog API either. What you do is you want the variant URL. Okay, nice. And you get them all. So usually what you do, you get the width, you get the height, and you have that. And here, what else do you have? Yeah, you can ask for the size. Okay, but most likely sometimes you don't want all those versions. You don't need all those versions. That would be awesome to filter. Right?
Yeah.
So this is what we've added. You can say, okay, I want only avif. You can do that. Then you're going to get only the avif, right? So it's an array. You can add as many as you want. But you can say also max width. I don't want anything more than 300.
And this is important because it will reduce the query payload a lot if you just fetch the sizes that you're interested in. And one thing is the max width, but also if you know that this is a full resolution, desktop, or if it's an app, or you can work with Minimax to kind of narrow down the results there. So this is an important query optimization to do.
Yeah.
Less payload, faster.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's pretty nice.
Another trick that I can show you, it's regarding the price, but it's better. I don't know if we have an example with Meta. Thinking about the key, the hash map key that you can have. Sometimes, I'll show you. So here for pricing, we wanted to go then the next step, right? So we know everything. You want the price, we know it by advance. You can ask for the price variant here as well, or together, and you get them all.
Yep.
All the price variant. So you can loop into it, right? That would be a use case. Why do we expose this? Because sometimes you just want to loop into them to define them. But this type here, it's an hash type. And for every single hash type, you have many, many different things that are using this. You can provide a key to get only one part of it. Let's, in this example, I can give the key and I can ask for default, right? And here, I would only have the default one.
Yeah.
Okay, it's just a trick, just some tricks. It's used for meta. It's used for showcase. It's used for many different things.
Yeah. No, that's super useful because usually you know what you want to fetch.
And there is also this trick, right? You don't like this. You want that to be named differently. Well, you can just do that, for instance.
Yeah.
Boom. Now you have a price and currency.
Clean. Okay, but I'm doing this. I'm fetching data, and I get 10,000 results.
Yeah. So what do? You get them all and you filter in the front end?
Yeah. We have seen that before. Yes, don't do that. Don't fetch the whole catalog. Do not do it.
Do not do it because that would be bad. So of course we have pagination, right? So here it's an example of pagination. In browse, but it's working exactly the same with search. How does it work? So here we've also decided, as Bård mentioned before, to not always follow the convention. If you've played with GraphQL a lot, usually for pagination, you have connection and edge. So you have edges, right? You do the fetch, you have a cursor, and then you have edge, and inside edge, you have a cursor, and then you have node. So it starts to be complex, right? Usually it's something like that. I think it's edges, then node, And then you have whatever you are supposed to have. Then you have cursor. We discussed a lot with everybody in the team, and we decided to do the way we wanted to do it, meaning to make it simple for you guys and make it clear. So you can paginate, you can say, okay, limit 10, skip 2. That's it.
Because it is I mean, if there exists convention, doesn't mean that we have to follow it, and doesn't mean that the convention is the best approach either, right? So this is we wanted to break that.
Exactly. And of course, in summary, you have some information, right? You have as more it, as previous it. So we are helping you to do the pagination as well, right?
Yeah.
Another trick here that is sometimes not easy to understand, but let's say in your project you want to count the result of something. Well, you don't have to fetch everything, right? You can do limit 1. I don't think limit 0 is working. Yeah, you can do limit 1, and then you get the total it. So you have a very quick and fast query. You get the full number, but this is actually, you don't even have to ask for the it, right? You can just do that, and this is only what you want. So that's one trick. There is another trick that is still important here. If you are aware of that with many databases, but at the end of the day, behind the scene, there is a storage, there is some queries that are done, search engine, etc. And
I thought it was all in the cloud, but okay.
Yeah, it's in the cloud. Yeah, it is. It is in the cloud, but
somewhere there's a hard drive.
Yeah, somewhere there is an access to something. Yeah. So when you skip, and it's true with MySQL, Postgres, Mongo, everything, the skip part is slow by definition because the database kind of loops and it skips. Yep. So here again, Disco API, the same way you can do queries that doesn't make sense. You can do and or that are mutually exclusive, and then it's not working. You are in charge of managing also your own performances, right? So if you know that the result will be big, like really big, that you're going to skip, you are in a loop in your code, you have page 25 and the skip will be like 2000, when you have that, then there is a better way to paginate and to get better performances. And it's using what we call the pagination token. Every document, you can ask for pagination token. Limit 1. What did I do?
You skipped.
Oh, you skipped 2000. So you have pagination token, and then you can use it using after. So okay. Let me do the query first. I limit 10, and then I can say, okay, I want all the results after this one.
Yeah.
And this will be performant all the time. That will be performant.
Yeah.
But it's not a skip.
Yeah. So we have skip in there. Use it for small data sets.
Yeah. When you have a lot of filter and you know that the result will be small, it's totally fine. If you do a big search, not a lot of filter, then you want to paginate, then do after.
Yeah. Simple as that. And so we have, how much should we fetch at a time? Because sometimes I want to build a sitemap. I have a name, maybe I want just the path so I can build the URLs for the sitemap, and that's it. Other times I want to build a bike configurator. So I need to fetch product with all the variants and all the relations on the variants, high resolution images. So a lot of data per item. So how will we go about there in terms of working with pagination?
It's a difficult question. The default limitation is 25, which is not a lot.
Yeah.
So I would say the max. I would say if you do pagination, then you don't care, right? Because it's just going to be one more HTTP request when you limit to 100. I would say 100 would be a good maximum. If you want to fetch more than 100, And sitemap is important, right? If it was on the browser, it's different because you want interactivity, you want to render stuff to your user. You don't want them to wait. When you're building a sitemap, it's going to probably be async. So you can do 100 and 100, that's fine. On the UI though,
but that's also because you're just fetching maybe two properties, right? You're fetching the name and so it's a light payload. Even though you're fetching 100 items, it's a light payload. And if you have a heavier payload, maybe you limit to 10 at a time. And if you're doing rich results in the browser, maybe 20. So be aware of the total load, I would say, also of the query.
Especially for the front end, right?
Yeah.
This really, really makes sense in the front end. You want interactivity, and that has been built for that. Yes.
Yeah. Which also means don't create one query that fetches the data, be happy with it, optimize it for a listing page, for a landing page, for a search result page, for when you're displaying data in the cart. You don't want to have one query that fetches everything. And we've seen that many times. Just do a query that fetches all the data. And then the developer is happy in the front end because they have all the data. But there's a lot of bandwidth going on and a lot of processing, which is totally unnecessary.
A lot of wait time as well.
Yeah.
Even though some people would say, well, but I'm building it statically. So when it's built, it's built. Well, yes, but then the time to build would be insane. There is some tricks also that you can do with streaming now, right? You can, it's like the above the fold kind of technique that you have in CSS. Here you do something similar. You have a first query where you do limit 5.
Yeah.
You wait server side, and then you stream the rest. Then you have interactivity. This kind of approach for the front end is awesome.
Yeah. So do pay attention to the queries. Be a craft person and really optimize it. In Norway, we have many languages. We have 3 official and then some. I want to fetch and show the English and the Norwegian version of the product at the same time.
Well, in catalog, that would be complex. In the Disco API, because it's kind of a search, it is a search, right? You can do that. So language could be an array. And okay, didn't plan to talk about this, but when I look at this and people seeing the video saying, okay, if it's an array, why it's not languages with an S, right? Well, because most of the time you are not going to use an array, and most of the time you're going to just put one language, right? But can you browse many? Yes, you can just do this and you get all the result. But you want to see, right? So let's do that. And off you have all the result, and that should be EN and Norwegian.
Oh, it's only English.
It is. So this is interesting. Okay.
Because if I check, I have actually some translated products under the outdoor furniture. So the Palace on the Share, for example, it's translated.
Should I trust you? So let's this one, right?
Well, you shouldn't, but
okay, we're going to click on it just to be sure, but I believe it is. Let's publish it and see, right? And this is interesting in debugging this, even for you, because, well, you can do a lot with Disco API. You can do a lot with querying. It's like when you do a query in the database, it's not necessarily that the database is wrong. I'm not saying that in this situation. Let's have a look. But, you need to mind your query. And maybe we did something wrong here. No limit. So there is something weird. What if we ask only for Norwegian? Like, we should get it, right?
Yeah, but I have translated it. Come on.
Oh, yeah, but okay, got it. Right? We're fetching on the pass. So here, see, I did a bad query. If I do this, what does it do? We're looking for language, EN or NO, in the pass, right?
Yeah.
So we have the result that we're asking for, because the pass in Norwegian is different.
Yep.
So if we want to get both, or just Norwegian, let's do Norwegian first. I remove the pass filtering, right? Because then I have, okay, 2 of them.
Yep.
We can ask for the pass and see. Okay, we didn't even publish the parent, so that's why.
Yeah, but the last one has a good one.
Yeah, this one's published. And now if I do both back, then we're gonna get them, and then we have more results, obviously.
Yeah.
But
this is just an example. So you can fetch multiple languages at the same time. They appear as different results, but the path in Crystallize is translatable, because in Norwegian you want it to be SAO optimized for the Norwegian word for outdoor furniture, which is utemøbler.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, question we often get is that the data doesn't appear in Disco.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what you're showing now with the publication states draft and published.
Exactly. Exactly. So you can also ask for just draft or just published or both. So why would you ask for draft? It's because sometimes you have a preview website and you want to generate a preview before public. So then you change your, usually you would not do it this way, right? Usually you will have a name query, then you would do, I don't know, pub state, whatever, right? And it's $, is it? And then you need to get the kind of this. And then you do this, and then you can use this in here. This is usually what you do.
Yeah. Cool.
And if you want it, by the way, if we go back to the original things that we were trying to do that, so here we don't have the correct result. What did I break?
Bracket.
Yeah. You could do a filter here, right? And do we have path? Yeah. You can do this. Then you could do OR, right? Then it's an array. Then you can do equals. What did I do? Oh no, you could do in. Yeah, you could have been this, right? You put this. You put the pass in Norwegian and the pass in English.
And then it's an OR.
Yeah.
That's so there's lots of tricks, lots of combinations, and some combinations that don't give results because of logical reasons. So there's some patterns to be learned there. One thing that we often get a question of is like, okay, how do I build the breadcrumbs? And I want the breadcrumbs to be, representing.
Yeah, it's a very good example. And please, if you're watching this video or using the Disco API and you are doing stuff that are kind of boring in the front end, some kind of mapping and things that could be simpler for you, tell us, because this is definitely where we want to improve the Disco API, and breadcrumb is one of them. You can get the path, you can get the parent, you can get the parent pass. Do I have them? No, the parent, obviously. You can facet and parent pass. Yeah, you can do parent pass. And on parent, you can do parent, right? You can do crazy stuff. But most likely people just want to display the breadcrumb, right?
Yeah.
So now you can do it, name and pass, and the system is doing it for you. So this is definitely where we want to improve the Disco API. You get the data that you want already formatted for you. It doesn't hurt any performance in here. It's just we did the mapping for you server side. You don't have to do it in the front end. You do that.
So it's just to correct, it's not exactly here that we want to improve, because here we have improved the developer experience for fetching breadcrumbs, but similar scenarios. I mean, if there are common patterns that you find yourself doing that we can simplify, I mean, join the Slack community, ping us, and let's have a discussion. This is the current state of it. It's super powerful, but of course it will be continuously developed to make ours and your life as a developer simpler and more joyful. Last thing I want to poke with you on the API side. So I'm fetching a product category, outdoor furniture, and then I want in the same query I want to fetch all the products there. But maybe I want to do some filtering on those products.
I see. Like the children kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So basically, let's say we fetch this folder, right?
Yeah.
And let's go back to English. And we want the children. How would you do that as a developer? I would go there. I already have this path, right?
Yeah.
That's interesting because here, this is the same path, right? When I do. So, okay, let's get rid of this. I want to browse product. There's many ways of doing what you ask for, right? This is again interesting, right? This is exactly the same path, right? So here, what do I say? Give me the product.
Or maybe you want to. I want to get the folder, maybe.
Yeah. That's what I'm. Yeah. Getting. Yeah, you want that, right? Because here you just have the result. You don't have the folder itself.
Yeah.
Okay. So to do what you want to do, it's actually you want to do a query. You want to get the specific things, right? So you want probably to search. We can go with search the specific path, and you want the it for that. Let's do it right and name. Okay, success. Okay, but now I want the children, right? So I can ask for the children, and now you start to have auto-completion issue. I don't have the children here. Well, of course, there is no implicit filter. So the search here, we don't know really. It could be anything, right? It could be a product, could be a document, could be anything. So you have to tell it, right? You have to do, okay, I want that. And if it's a category, which it is in my situation, I want the children. Now the system knows that for a category, I have the children. I could have done browse, category, and this path. Same exact logic. And I would have had children directly. So let's do it just for the sake of it. I could have done, because I know by advance, but it depends on your code, right? But here, let's say as a developer, it's kind of not hard-coded, kind of decided. I want this name.
Because typically you want to have the name, you want to have the title of the page, you want maybe a description of the category, and then you want to list the products, right?
Exactly. Then I have children already, because the system knows that category is a container, and container we have children. Boom. So now I can do children. And here you get something interesting, right? Why do I need to do it again? Because we've decided to do that children is actually another search inside the search. So everything you can filter on at the first level, whether it's browse or whether it's search or autocomplete, you have it on children. With another implicit filter, parent ID, right? So we filter for you. So here when you search, you will never get something that is not underneath this, right? Because you have a direct parent ID, one level search. But here you could do another language, you could do a term. So here, let's say long should work, right? If I do this, the term should do filter actually to make it better. Filter, and then I want, this is the name, and I want the name to contain long. Oops. Oh, I know. Here we go. Okay.
Simple.
And then your pagination is here as well, right? Because you can have a lot of children, even if it's not recommended too much. But here, same logic. You can do limit 5. You want only 5 of the children. Then you don't fetch them all. You just do this. And
this would be a typical query for your category pages.
Yeah.
Fetch something for the category, and then you fetch the children, or at least the first X of the children.
And you want to get crazy, you can do facet on it.
Yeah, which is not that crazy because you want to filter on size of the products and the colors and things like this. Yeah,
that's why children is actually a sub-search.
Boom. So this was a brief introduction to the main concepts of the Discovery API.
Brief. And we didn't even talk about price list. By the way, it's important. Price lists are working. So you can ask the price. Do we have a product, easy product? Here, default price, but you can do default price for, you provide the market, and you have the price for the same way. Look at the doc. If you know about price lists are Discovery enabled. I mean, Discovery is aware of the price list.
And you can, of course, fetch the subscription information and the pricing of that, etc., etc. So you find all auto-completed when you do browse in the documentation there. Take it for a spin. Hit us up in the Slack community if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions. Happy to discuss those. And again, next week we're going to show something else which is really interesting. Hit the subscribe button there to be notified, as Didrik says, so we get some more followers. And that's it for today. Nice scratching the surface of Discovery, or combine that with a deep dive. You have the stream of today. Hope you enjoyed it, and see you guys.
And also, you have example of usage on the boilerplate that we are shipping more and more, right? So
True.
Soon we're gonna have a live stream on that as well. And now all the boilerplate that we are doing are using Disco API by default.
Yeah, you find the subscription boiler and the furniture boiler both available on the YouTube channel. So check it out. Both are using Discovery all the way.
Yep.
Have a good one.